I still see many religious organizations that are misguided in implementing the laws of the New Testament. Many still insist on enforcing the Sabbath that was implemented during the time of Moses. Now, before I begin, I'm asking for your attention because the topic in this video is not easy to understand. Do you recall the scenario in the Old Testament where the Israelites traveled for 40 years? They traveled in the wilderness for a long time. Remember that the law given by God back then prohibited work on the Sabbath day. Anyone found doing anything else on the Sabbath day would die. And because work was forbidden on the Sabbath, cooking was also included in what was forbidden. The question is, how did they eat while traveling back then? Exodus 16:4. Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. 5. On the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. In a short explanation, they no longer needed to plant or farm because God provided them with food every day, and on the sixth day, God would double the food given to them so that when the next day or the Sabbath day arrived, they would have no excuse because they had collected enough food. They didn't need to cook or prepare food on the Sabbath day. But even though they observed the Sabbath every seventh day for 40 years, they still did not enter into God's rest because of their stubbornness. Psalm 95:10. For 40 years I despised that generation. I said, these people have twisted hearts. They don't know my ways. So in anger I swore, they will never enter my place of rest. Meaning, the Sabbath that the Jews practice now in Israel, or the Sabbath that other religions still insist we should follow today, is just like the observance of the people of Israel back then. Both are already worthless and meaningless now, because that's the kind of observance that did not enter into God's Sabbath. Did you get the point I'm trying to make?
To further prove to Sabbath followers that the Sabbath observed by the Israelites back then, which religious organizations today still stubbornly imitate, has long been invalid, let us read Hebrews 4:3. We who have faith are entering the rest, as God said, and because of my anger I swore, they will never enter into my rest. 4. Then somewhere he said this about the seventh day of creation. God rested on the seventh day from all his works. 5. But again in the passage above, God said, they will never enter my rest. 6. Therefore, it's left open for some to enter it, and the ones who had the good news preached to them before didn't enter because of disobedience. It is clear that the law of the Sabbath as practiced by the Jews then, by the time of Christ, was long broken or had long been unacceptable in the sight of God. Question: if the law of the Sabbath as practiced by the Jews then should no longer be followed, what should be followed now? Now I want you to focus on the next verses I will read, because this is where the prophecy for Christ begins to enter. When the people of Israel failed to obtain God's rest, God again promised another Sabbath different from the Sabbath practiced by the Jews. Hebrews 4:7. Just as it says in the passage above, God designates a certain day as today, when he says through David much later, today, if you hear his voice, don't have stubborn hearts. Are you following the flow of the story? This Sabbath is different from the ordinary Sabbath known by the Jews, because the only Sabbath the Jews knew back then was the one they observed every Saturday. The Sabbath that God promised the people of Israel then, that another Sabbath day would come for them, is called today. And besides that, he also has a voice, meaning another Sabbath day will come, but it will speak to the Israelites. God also gave an early reminder that if you hear his voice, don't have stubborn hearts. Who is this Sabbath, or today, that God is referring to in the verse now? Hebrews 13:8
Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Let's begin now by connecting the verses to prove that Christ is truly the one whom God mentioned back then as another day of rest coming with a voice for Israel. Let's read one of the voices of this Sabbath before he appeared in human form to the Israelites then. Isaiah 43. A voice is crying out, "Clear the Lord's way in the desert. Make a level highway in the wilderness for our God." Now, if Christ is the one called today, and he is also the one called the one with the voice, is he also the rest that God mentioned back then in Hebrews 4:7? Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So, this Christ, who is also called today, and also called the one with the voice, he is also the rest that God mentioned back then in Hebrews 4:7. Have you understood how important the Sabbath was that appeared 2,000 years ago, yet the Israelites still ignored it? That's why God said, if you hear his voice, don't have stubborn hearts. Because this very Sabbath would appear again in the nation of Israel and preach once more about his rest, and once again, it was still not accepted by the Israelites.
When I understood this verse passage, I felt like crying. That's when I understood God's struggle with his own people and how many times God pleaded with the Israelites back then. He helped them repeatedly from their parents' time onward, but they repeatedly disobeyed him. And that disobedience of the Israelites in the past became the reason why God turned his attention to the Gentiles. And for those who don't understand, when we say Gentiles, these are the people outside of Israel. So, if you're from the Philippines, you're a Gentile. If you're from America, you're a Gentile. If you're from South Africa, Japan, China, Russia, etc., you are a Gentile. Questions. What were the situations where Christ intentionally broke the Sabbath that the Jews had long observed? And which law did Christ say he would not abolish but fulfill?